Hi, folks. Just wanted to give a quick update on Bitcoin, first of all, and then second of all, to address a larger question, which is the issue of whether or not Bitcoin should scale. I don't know if you should scale or not. I know it's a big debate, but I'm going to present some facts and figures to you that I think people need to start accounting for when they start thinking about where Bitcoin is going in terms of daily transaction volumes. And, we're already hitting up against the edge of some of these blocks during peak times and already starting to have problems. And Bitcoin is still just a baby. And I'm going to try to demonstrate that to you here after I get finished with the little Bitcoin update. So, guys, before I get started, you know the drill on the disclaimer. I've explained it all before. You can go back and watch some of my other videos if you're not familiar with it. But I will just never, ever, ever flash a disclaimer in front of you. And I'm like some sort of subliminal message. And I'm certainly not just doing this to avoid legal complications and everything like this. I really do mean what I say here, what's in this disclaimer. As I mentioned before, I kind of took it from ItBit, but I just really like this disclaimer. It summarizes it all. My bottom line with cryptocurrency has always been just don't bet the ranch on this stuff. I know a lot of you have, and I know a lot of you regret it. And then I know a lot of you have and don't regret it. So just be careful. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not licensed or anything like that. I just trade. I'm just giving you my opinions. So we got one of these fun, really, if you guys will notice, I just show the candlesticks, I just use candlesticks in my trading. And I know other guys have got Bollinger Bands and MACDs and, oh my God, well, what are all the different ones that are out there? Parabolic SAR and all that. And, you look at their charts and I just don't know how they see anything. They got triangles written on it, and outlining pendants and flags and trend channels. And it's just insane. And, but I like to just show people just simple price charts, because a lot of times you can figure out a whole heck of a lot of what's going on just by looking at the candlesticks. And so in this particular instance, you'll see here we had this really big hard drop. And this is a situation I always talk about, when we're in big bull markets like this, and a lot of people have the expectation that prices are going to rise, then if that's true, then you have to have these really hard shakeouts. And of course, when you don't have market makers, you don't have, I guess, market operators, you don't have central banks and stuff like that trying to manipulate a currency, you can expect these swings to be even harder. And that's what's happened. This is what happened here with this sort of initial price correction. And I'm not sure we're done here. And the reason why is, people have to be convinced. The people who are so sure they're right, well, enough people have to be convinced that they're wrong before it's going to move higher. You see this situation over and over again. For me, I wouldn't be surprised if we see another leg down, just to ask all you guys who are long Bitcoin, hey, are you sure? Do you really think you're right? I got a lot of emails right around here, like everybody was telling me, oh, Bitcoin's finished. That's it. That's the end. And I said, no, this is far, 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 far from over. And it's not the end. Of course, since then, we've seen this rather dramatic and rather healthy price rise. I like this. So I suspect we'll have a quick leg down. I don't know for sure. I'm waiting to see. It'll probably just shoot down, maybe go 575, something like that, and then fire back up. I don't know. It may or it may not. Like I said, I'm not here to predict the markets for you or to tell you which way it's going to go. I know a lot of you are just and that's the other thing. A lot of you are just waiting for this so that you can pile in on it. So you're not buying because you're waiting. So that's another reason why these legs down, really quick legs down, like what we had right here. It just fires down and then shoots right back up. That's because of that sort of mentality that occurs pretty typically in bull markets. Can't say for sure if we really are in a long-term bull market with Bitcoin, but I feel like we are. I think we're going to see higher prices. So, I mean, that's what I'm looking for. So, and along those lines, higher prices is going to bring, more users. It's going to bring more speculators in and more people wanting to trade. And, I get pretty frustrated when people start talking about the scaling issue. You've got some people who say we don't need to scale at all, and other people say, oh, we really need to scale. But wherever I go, what I don't hear are the real numbers. I don't hear people really at all thinking about what's coming. And I want to prove to you, I think there is to use a gentle term, a poop storm coming in terms of transaction value for Bitcoin. And I think we're going to see transactions dramatically increase, the likes of which nobody has ever seen before, or nobody, at least in Bitcoin, is expecting. And I'm going to give you a little example today. So this little article here was one of those that came across on the Twitter deal, and I was reading it, and it just, I don't know, I guess I finally just kind of blew a gasket. I'm just, I'm so tired of people just not looking at things clearly. I'm sorry, but that's just the way I feel. So very good article, actually. I just want to, you can Google that. It was on CoinDesk. Why a 1 megabyte block size may be right for today's Bitcoin. And, he goes into a lot of different things. He talks about, the fact that we're bumping up against the blocks here. Looks like things are getting pretty rough. And he makes some good arguments, but then he comes to the Visa thing, which is interesting. He says just take the Visa network. It hit about 47,000 peak transactions per second, and his argument is we really don't have to do better than Visa, or, even if it did, we'd be okay. Then he goes in and sort of talks about, segregated witness and the Lightning Network and side chains, and you guys have been through all this before. But here's the interesting part, guys, and this puts it into perspective, and it's the part that so many, including this author, overlooked. And he says, investors and speculators will continue to do the heavy lifting, and the system will continue to work great for them, even if blocks are temporarily fuller. That's a big no, as far as I'm concerned. If you're going to continue to rely on investors and speculators, then you need to start looking at what kind of volumes you're looking at in terms of transactions when it comes to investors and speculators coming in. And this is for people, who argue. Look, I know a lot of people say, oh, you don't know coding, or you don't understand the blockchain, or you don't understand Bitcoin, or, I've heard all the arguments about, well, we don't need to scale. And I'm saying, okay, great, that's fine. But then answer these questions. Let's start looking at numbers, okay? Real numbers here. So you all know that Bitcoin just recently, with these recent price increases, have reached a market cap of about 10 billion. Everybody kind of celebrating that, geez, isn't that great? But I mean, let's put that into perspective just in terms of the stock market, right? So like a large cap stock in the stock market would be considered, 10 billion or more in terms of its overall market capitalization, 10 billion or more. So Bitcoin, in a way, is just now kind of hit that point to where it's something like a large cap stock in the stock market. That's pretty interesting, right? But let's begin to let's start looking at some of these larger companies by their market caps. right? Apple with 525.2 B. That's a B, fellas and ladies. Google with 587.6 B. You know, and Bitcoin has sort of just really, if you look at it in terms of its overall market cap, is something like one of these big stocks that all of you are familiar with, Amazon.com, right? Johnson & Johnson, Facebook. A lot of you know Facebook, of course. AT&T, General Electric. My goodness. So, well, let's just look at something. Let's take a look at what their daily transactions are. U.S. exchanges, volume leaders. Look at what they're doing a day, folks. Is that 88 million and change, 68 million and change, 55 million and change? And these are all just individual stocks in the stock market, right? So let's look at the daily number of transactions on Bitcoin. This is a chart showing the historical number of unique daily Bitcoin transactions. So those are the unique transactions, right? Here are the dates. From January 3rd to 2009, July 3rd to 2016. Look at that. 250, what? 1,000. Are you hearing me? Look at this, guys. Just one, Bank of America Corp. 88,843. So you guys can help me, you know, and find that video. I know there was a video, I tried to hunt it down, that Andreas Antonopoulos said in a rather, you know, optimistic tone that he felt like we could handle up to 500 billion transactions a year. Okay. 500 billion transactions a year. Okay, so if we're talking about speculators and investors getting into this, and you know, the arguments that only the tech savvy folks are going to get into Bitcoin. Okay, let's just say that only tech savvy folks do get into Bitcoin. I mean, you know, people trading stocks and Forex markets and things like this, Bitcoin is not that technical, and it's getting easier and easier every day, but it's not too technical for people like this, especially algorithm traders who put out bots. I mean, what happens when these guys start hitting the market? Okay, they're going to be putting out, and they're out there. But what happens when one of these big ones starts to think about arbing fiat and cryptocurrencies in general, and specifically Bitcoin? Okay, so let's look at, here's the market, the Forex market alone. So, I mean, the big argument here with Bitcoin is, you know, you want to get out there and be the currency of the world, right? You want to get rid of all these fiat markets and all that, and let Bitcoin reign supreme. Okay, but look, it's the largest, most liquid market in the world. The dollar makes up most of the transactions, right? But here's what's interesting. According to the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, right? Foreign exchange increased to an average of what's that number, guys? 5.3 trillion a day. So let's round backwards, you know, so let's not overdo it here. Let's round backwards. Let's just say $5 trillion a day, right? I mean, put that into perspective. 220 billion per hour. That means a Forex market does what Bitcoin entire market capitalization, it does Bitcoin's entire market capitalization in about 20 minutes. All right? Hear me now. And let's just say that, let's just say Bitcoin only captures 1% of that. Let's just say, well, okay, 1% of that is what? That's what, 50 billion? 50 billion, and that's a day, right? 50 billion a day. Okay, all right, so let's say, let's be even less optimistic. Let's just say, well, you know, half of that, half a percent of that, right? Well, that's 25 billion a day. I mean, are you guys starting to see what's going to start happening here? And Bitcoin is just becoming more and more mainstream every day. And people are calling all the time. I only trade for my own account, and that's what I tell them. I'm not interested in your account, but people are calling. Well, hey, how do I put $1 million into Bitcoin? And there are just a lot of people doing this now. I'm telling you, there's a big storm coming for Bitcoin, and that storm is going to be the issue in terms of whether or not we scale. You just have to start looking at the numbers, right? And it's a big question. Like right now, 10 billion. I mean, it's like a flea. Biting a Bitcoin right now is like a little flea that's sort of just nipping at the world economy and just kind of like it's kind of annoying. 10 billion. But as people are starting to pay attention and take a real look at Bitcoin. This is just going to be unbelievable. People, you just have no idea what's headed your way. And that's all I can say. And if scale or not scale, I'll leave that up to the developers, the core developers. But I got to tell you, I'm not sure what the heck the difference is here. I sit around and wait. I'm getting warmed up it's Sunday evening here where I'm at, and I'm waiting for the Forex market to warm up so I can get in there and play. And I'm wondering what Janet Yellen's got to say, or what Draghi's got to say over in Europe and all this. And I'm wondering, well, what the heck's the difference between that and wondering what the heck Bitcoin Core is going to do? You all think it's a big difference? I don't know. You talk about centralization, decentralization, and all these kind of things. And yeah, I guess you're right. But ultimately, some people have got to step up and be leaders in the field. So, yeah, I love the idea of Bitcoin. I love decentralization. But I think we need to really take a very hard look at the scaling issue, seriously, especially now when we're already hitting up against these blocks. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Thanks, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.